Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Rose City, Portland, Oregon, where Night of the Wyrm has taken place over the course of 6 or 7 episodes that you might have seen so far. But this is unrelated to our primary story, as this evening we're going to be focusing on more intimate moments between the characters Flynn and Tamsin. Speaking of Flynn and Tamsin, before we actually jump into the story proper for this evening, I would be totally remiss if we didn't introduce ourselves. I, as always, am your storyteller, Sam. You can find me most places online as at Dungeon Samster, and tonight I'll be playing everybody besides these two. KJ, would you please introduce your character?
I'm KJ. For this game set of little intimate moments, I play Flynn, who in our main game is our Malkavian exhausted writer, and you get to experience some of his actual day job experience.
And now Alex.
Me, I'm Alex. Hi, I'm Blonded94 at most places on the internet, if you dare to try and find me. And I will be playing, as always, from the main campaign, Dr. Tamsin Newman, our Phylodox Glasswalker Garou, who is also pretty tired most of the time, but probably not as tired as a Malkavian is. I win. I guess.
One of you potentially seeks to drink caffeine-laden blood, despite that being a little bit difficult if you are a bagger. The other of you drinks tea. It's not that dissimilar, if we're being forthright. That said, speaking of drinking blood, this is, of course, a story within the world of darkness, and as such, some of the things we may be describing this evening will be of a sensitive nature. Though myself and the players before me are not assholes, or at least that's my interpretation so far, their characters occasionally might be, or otherwise will do things that would seem that way, and we just want you all to be aware that in the world of darkness, there might be something this evening that might be hard to hear, and we don't want you to be caught off and surprised by that. But on that really fun and auspicious note, let's go ahead and re-dive into the world of darkness in Portland, Oregon. And welcome back. In the modern nights in Portland, Oregon, Flynn and Tamsin might be working together to solve a supernatural mystery giving cause for vampires and werewolves in this city to be at war with one another. But tonight, we're actually going to be going back to the spring of 2023. Flynn, you're maybe about a year and a half into living in this home over on East Portland with your roommate, and news rag reporters work at all hours. This was a good job for you, not only because it's what you're genuinely interested and passionate about, but also because, especially in the modern digital age, you could be living in Portland and writing for a Hawaiian paper or a New York magazine or any publication possible. And so it's not too strange when your editor actually writes in. And this comes to you on Slack when they're checking in, just trying to see, do you have an update on that obvious clickbait article? And you get that message from Christy. It's just kind of like, hey, we need those SEO terms thrown in there. Also, can you get something on, I think they're called hoverboards? And that's the message.
I think there's a really big sigh as he's maybe I think on the side when Flynn's bored and needs more stimulation than writing clickbait articles, he's got side stories that maybe one day will be published into a novel, but for the most part it's just for his own enjoyment to do something. And it takes a couple of minutes and then he writes back a response just, working on it, deadline's not till next week, you gotta trust me here.
Okay, LOL. Don't worry, I trust you. We just need these things as soon as possible, but I got you, dog. Christy gives off vibes at nearly all times that she's not trying to be too busy or business forward, and throws in phrases like that to force the point. It's not genuine.
He'll just short response. I'll get you the draft by tomorrow.
And you see that ellipses, 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 and then you just get a thumbs up emoji.
I hate those kind of people. Literally the worst.
Yeah. And what is the side piece that you're functioning or focusing on tonight, as opposed to this article?
Just in a hobby, one of mechanically Flynn's specialties is in occult information. He's always had a fascination for superstition, supernatural, which he now lives in that world. So every once in a while, he's got a small little side, like, not a podcast. What's the text formatted version of those? Blog.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. So he's got like a side little blog that's specifically for like looking into supernatural stories that are local, proving or disproving stuff, which maybe later we might approach one of those stories. So he'd probably be sitting and looking into one of those, doing research on some of the local legends, and maybe like writing a short story about like an interaction with one that he thinks is really cool, whether he thinks it actually exists or not, because it's more interesting than clickbait on hoverboards.
And you can crank 5 or 6 of those out in maybe 5 to 10 minutes. It's not difficult. You just know you have to check the relevant ad boards for whoever it is that's sponsoring the Mercury that particular month. And you're focusing a little bit on that, a lot more on your occult article, and that's when a second message chain reinvigorates itself. You occasionally interact with a spec reporter at the Mercury, Jane Wallace, and you and Jane run in similar circles, so to speak, herself being half Fae, and she hits you up indicating the Northwest Weird is looking for something that I think would be a little bit more up your alley than mine. There's a new lecturer over at the college, Portland U, and a lot of students give her good reviews, but they're also wary of her to the extent that I'm pretty sure we're dealing with another Garou who's staying in the city as opposed to remaining outside like so many of them do. The Weird is looking to see if anybody can dig up anything on this new person. A little bit like a, hey, let's be aware of them in case they're a wolf in sheep's clothing situation, pun intended. But also, some of the nerves a few students are reporting gives cause for me to believe they could actually be a danger. Can you look into it?
And this is like in those movies where you see him like push back from the desk and like do the spin of like, finally, something worth my fucking time. And immediately text back, you got it, give me the information and who I'm supposed to be looking at.
And you're texting that with your right hand while another part of your brain awakens and begins typing in earnest the clickbait article. It's one of the other reporters within Flynn's mind who's just jumping at the bit to be doing something, and you're giving enough attention to your phone that they briefly take control of your other hand. And as we zoom out of that sequence, on the same evening, a little bit further north into Portland, just a few blocks away from the Columbia River, we're actually focusing in on, and I had this a second ago, sorry, it is Old Town Pizza and Brewing. What do you think, Alex, would be Tamsin's favorite pizza?
Oh.
This could get very political very quickly.
Oh no, I'm about to get cancelled the first time. I think her favorite pizza would actually probably be just like plain margarita with some really nice basil on it. Maybe some balsamic on the side.
It's like the least controversial take I've ever heard with reference to what a fictional character's favorite pizza might be. So bravo for that. And sitting across from you with about a half-finished IPA, you know he's not actually drinking, is Jackson. And the two of you have a folio in front of you. You're discussing what could be term papers, him being an actual professor, you being a visiting lecturer. And he says, you know, word is this place may actually be haunted.
Oh, come on. I know we're both of the supernatural world, but you can't believe every time someone says something is haunted.
No, seriously, there are some interesting stories. Perhaps we find a way to stay overnight.
Stay. I know you're trying to flirt, but sometimes you're not good at it. And if you want to come back to mine, all you have to do is ask.
No. And he sort of like blushes ever so slightly. And for everybody watching at this moment, we had a discussion of what Jackson looks like, and it's sort of a cross between Oscar Isaac and Diego Luna, just a beautiful Hispanic man. Maybe about 5'10", 5'9" tops, depending on the shoes that he's wearing, but well built. And he just, no, seriously, I'm interested in learning alongside you. We spend so much time at the university, but this is something we might actually be interested in.
So you want to start like a ghost hunting expedition right now? Can I at least finish my food? I know you don't eat, but can I at least finish my food first?
And he kind of like smirks at you, and you see a flush in his cheeks that you're all too familiar with when he's interacting with persons outside of your immediate circle. That shows you he's activated a portion of his blood to be able to have seeming bodily function to a degree. And half smirking, he picks up a slice of your pizza that you know he won't get any gratification from, and takes a pretty sizable bite out of the top and begins chewing and just keeps that wry smile on his face. I will ask, please give me wits insight.
This man. Wits insight for me is. Would it be? Can I use my specialty for moods in this one?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. 6 successes with a crit. I know this man. Come on now.
Now, you know enough about Kindred, whether it's in discussing such matters with Jackson or otherwise, that when they engage in the blush of life, depending on the sensation they're activating, they can smell something that they wouldn't have otherwise. They can feel sensation and pleasure in ways that they wouldn't have. And in this situation, you do know that vampires who wish to eat food and can stand to do so without immediately regurgitating it can genuinely taste and enjoy things they might have enjoyed it when they were living. And the look on his face, you feel like he is completely convinced that he's faking to you that he enjoys the taste of margarita pizza. And it is like literally eating dirt. He has what Edward Cullen described when eating pizza in Twilight as being like the equivalent of eating hot garbage. But he has a stoic look on his face that he's at least fairly certain is passing for all the other persons in here. And just maintains that smirk as he looks at you whilst chewing food you genuinely need.
I look him in the eye and I smirk back at him and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're enjoying that, are you? I bet it tastes lovely."
It is absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe you.
And about 3 or 4 days later, we find ourselves in the lecture hall in which you teach. What class are you in today?
I think this is probably like a 3rd year class. It's a more advanced one, and it's about my research specifically. And if anyone wants to consider being one of my referral students for their dissertation, about carbon capture and converting energy sources so that you can take pollutants from the air, store the energy, and convert it into another type of energy. So I've got like some pictures on the board about a potential device that we might have been working on and saying like, so with these devices, for example, you could take carbon and carbon dioxide from the air, run it through some sort of biological catalyst into maybe even specific materials we could wear as clothing and convert that into something else. So say you wanted to hit harder, of course, this technology is so far away. And I go to like the next slide and it's got like one of the wrist wraps I gave to Luca once, like as a model sort of like MMA glove. It's just like, hey, we could take pollutants from the air so you can hit harder, and it could be kind of like the Black Panther suit. But don't take my word for it. It's up to you guys to see if this is a line of research you want to go into yourselves.
And Flynn, it's probably March, perhaps April of 2023. So quarantine procedures on campus are still very much in place to the extent that students and faculty have been welcomed back to campus, but they're encouraged to remain at minimum 2 seats away from one another. Smaller classes such as this are now being proctored in large lecture halls as a result of the need to maintain this social distance. So the nearest person to you is maybe 6 or so feet away. And the person immediately to your left in that regard raises their hand and is just, and you see that out of the corner of your eye. And at present, what does Flynn look like trying to blend in with a college crowd?
So Flynn definitely would have scoped out the college to look at some of what kind of fashion the students wear, so that he could blend in naturally, because he doesn't do like the Hollywood disguises with the hoodie and sunglasses or ball cap. Doesn't work. That's not very down low. So he looked at what most of the students wear, but also kind of knew, because when he died, he was around the age of most first couple of years of college students, and he can kind of went between a little bit of a range. And knowing this is a third year class, kind of would pay attention more to them. So he's probably wearing a slightly tattered, like button up shirt, like one that's been worn a lot, and like a hoodie zip up jacket, with the hood down, and just it's a fabric face mask that's like been specifically built with the proper ventilation and everything, but they're more comfortable than the ones that the school normally would provide. So he's just got one of those very like flat color. I think it's probably a black one with just normal glasses on. And genuinely, like outside of the notes he's taking on Dr. Tamsin for this article he's been asked to write, every once in a while he'll flip to a different page and will actually take some notes on the lecture that's happening, because in the back of his brain he's like, oh, I could maybe give some of this information to Ronan, who is his roommate, to potentially help convert toxic energies out in the air into helping with his computer systems at home.
And you're taking notes on the latter topic at the moment. You're sort of actually capturing some details that were just referenced, specifically with reference to the channeling and redirection of energy. And this kid shoots his arm up to the left of you and sort of has probably the same look as 1/3 of the other kids, students, what have you, from either this class or without, where it's very much, I'm so used to being at home all the time. I'm in sweats, I have a hoodie, and I'm in Crocs. And they have a mask that has like one of those sort of like rebreather hoses on it, because I know those were popping up and becoming more popular in 2023, especially on Amazon. And in the least intimidating sort of Darth Vader-y version of his voice as a result of the rebreather mask, just goes, uh, forgive me, Professor, but if you're discussing the kinetic potential of fabric outside of some rare but very intensely strong silks, what do you have to? And just goes into some like odd, oh, I'm pretty damn certain I know more than what this professor has to say. And without challenging Alex, unless Alex has more smart stuff to say on the subject, to do so, I would love for you to roll an intelligence and craft or technology or anything else you could justify, just as a means of like stumping this student who's taking the opportunity to be like, I've watched a YouTube on this subject.
This is so fascinating and funny to me, because there's videos out there, specifically in the crocheting community. You can crochet with wire, and people have made chainmail shirts crocheted out of wire. You do not have to use fabric.
I also didn't mean to dunk this hard on this student, but I did get 8 successes with a crit on an intelligence technology check.
This is your speciality. You are knowledgeable in this topic.
This is my presentation. This is mine.
What you've done is handily walked up the side of like the basketball hoop. And like when I say the side of the basketball hoop, I actually don't know. It's the pole the hoop is attached to, and like reaching over without any muss or fuss whatsoever, you've gently placed the ball through, touching nothing but net. You can tell I sport. And you handily score the point without dunking on the kid, is what I'm trying to state here, while absolutely discouraging him from raising his hand again. And you see this, KJ, Flynn sees this entire time, this kid's been paying attention, but not taking any notes. And as a result of, what do you think? Do you explain it in a way, would you be concise, or would you be like elaboratively descriptive for the purposes of shutting him down?
I think it would not be it would not ever be replying with any sort of ego or
Mhm.
intent to embarrass, because her whole point is that she wants to get her knowledge across so that they can then build on and adapt their own ideas. And dunking on someone in an egotistical manner, especially in a teaching environment, would be against her ethics and also would discourage this person from maybe ever asking a question or learning again in her classes.
That said, Flynn, what you see is this person has been kind of sitting there, hands in the front pocket of their hoodie, the vast majority of the class, and they've been like rocking their knees if they're paying attention, but they're anxious. And their leg goes steady about halfway through Tamsin's explanation, in response to what they had said. And you see them like finally reach for a notebook in a very begrudging fashion as a result, and just no additional input.
I think you just gently, like that huff of air when you're laughing quietly to yourself, and there's just that little bit of like, you're here to learn. Come on.
Hmm. Now, KJ, if I could please have you build a pool for Flynn's investigation and intelligence.
All right.
Flynn's gonna dunk on me, watch it.
And intelligence.
So much basketball.
My
That's
investigation speciality does not apply here, though, so it could be better. Fascinating. Fascinating. Including a crit, that is 5 successes.
Okay, that includes the crit. So, 5 is more than sufficient over the next probably only 48 hours, including this period in which you're in class, to tail Tamsin, gain access to some digital files, otherwise look into her life, and you put together a reasonably detailed article that responds to the inquiry made on the Northwest Weird, as suggested by Jane. And probably about 2 days later, Tamsin, you get hit with an instant message of your own. Jackson, who works out of the University of Portland, but also does a lot of other work at some of the smaller universities. He, being a part of the Portland Chantry, does have to do some research away from the school in which both of you normally preside. You don't live here. And you get a message from him that's coming from his other university email handle, but it comes through on Microsoft Teams nevertheless. And it goes, I'm not going to send you the link because you know better than that, but you probably want to check out that website that we discussed last time we got together. Your name may or may not have come up.
I also think, relatively quickly, coincidentally, you receive an anonymous, unknown phone number message with the link signed, like not signed, but it's just a quick message after the link that says, have fun.
Okay.
This does happen about 5 seconds apart from each other. No more, no less. Yeah.
I think at this point she wouldn't question it, but she messages Jackson back and she's like, I can't wait to read this. I'm so excited. Exclamation mark. And then a kiss at the end. And then I'm going to click on his link. And then we'll get to the other weird phone number later.
Mm-hmm. Now remember, he didn't send a link. He just suggested from within Vampire Society. He was just kind of like, I'm not going to send this link. The internet is a mess.
But
my apologies.
Generally, the website that might hold this article.
I'll go on the website. That's fine. I've probably looked at it before for other goings on for the supernatural community anyway, so I'll find it.
So you visit https://martinsmovingsolutions.net. And you find yourself passing through a series of alternately routed websites until arriving no longer than 10 seconds later on the hub for the Northwest Weird, spelled WEIR parentheses D, as if to imply that this is just like any other publication, the Northwest Wire. And KJ, what's the gist of the article Tamsin finds there about her person?
So the first thing you notice is the headline of this article that says "Doctor or Danger," and then it's not a terribly lengthy article, but is informed enough that it's a little suspicious, but there is obviously hints of rumor and speculation outside of factual information. But it details rumors about students who either were injured or went missing that may potentially be connected to your person, emotional outbursts when it comes to tech, charismatic nature between you and potential other staff mates, and then partway through all of this, something you probably weren't expecting to see is the name Hans, who, in our main series, is the ex-boyfriend in which Tamsin killed during her first transformation as a Garou, and details in somewhat vague, but also just enough detail to be too knowledgeable on the subject of mysterious circumstances, a potential cover case, and the fact that you were in a relationship with him and disappeared from London shortly after he was reported missing. And there's speculation on whether you use your status as a visiting lecturer and teacher to scope out new victims, if you're just charismatic and intelligent, or if there's some bit of a psychopath within your nature. And it just kind of goes throughout that of like, is this a well-intentioned mentor, or is this someone that we should be worried about in the community?
I think Tamsin reads that and is like, oh, this is funny. And then when it and is like, yeah, I've heard this before. Ha 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 ha. Great. A psycho female professor, not heard that smear campaign before. And then when it gets to Hans, she's like, can I make a rage check?
That is precisely what I was going to ask for. Yes.
Flynn does his research, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I do succeed, barely.
I do have to say, referenced in Flynn's article was notes from a police report generated by Police Constable Andy Layton. Andy being a member of London's secretive Garou Society. And Flynn even calls into question the, let's say, validity of reporting mechanisms used by Andy, and gives cause for persons to question, the potential supernatural nature of that individual should they ever find their way to London. And no matter how on the outskirts you might have felt in that community, although they did attempt to welcome you, they, by way of their secretive nature, weren't as warm as you've found some Garou to be here. That too warrants another rage check. Please give me that.
That one I do fail.
Hey.
Which makes more sense.
I will also note for the audience, because we've talked about this, but it has not been said, this article is not under Flynn's name. This is under specifically his supernatural pen name, Gillian Bailey.
Mm-hmm. And you look down at your phone, and it has a link, and you do see that it is referencing the Moving Solutions website. And let's see, in 2023, that would, are you an iPhone, Samsung, Google Pixel user, Tamsin?
Android.
Android, okay. You probably then would have had unless you don't have the newest of phones, like a Samsung Galaxy S23 or older. And if you hadn't upgraded at that point, failing a rage check is more than sufficient for you looking down at that to some of that hidden Garou strength comes through.
Shit, I just got this. Well, I'm just looking, just looks at the article and goes, well, at least the grammar's good. At least I've been insulted and uncovered in 2,000 words or less, and the punctuation's good and the paragraphing is good at least.
I will say something you might find. Actually, I'm gonna ask for a roll. As you've been reading through the article, could you roll me academics and intelligence?
I shall roll you that.
Because that's what I could think of for like tearing apart a piece of written media.
I got 4 successes.
Okay. One thing you notice as you're reading this is it almost seems like it's not one person writing this article. Like the way the storytelling and information is put across changes every once in a while. And it seems like one person will return to write something later. And it seems almost like there's 3 different people that wrote this together, but it's cohesive enough that it's not super noticeable unless you're really picking it apart.
That seems generous to me for 4 successes, but yeah.
I think she from reading papers every single day and the influence of now AI and like ChatGPT, her plagiarism senses are just like heightened and can tell when someone's writing in their true voice and when someone's not. So she notices that and then remembers the weird number that came in early, and I was like, and I think just like replies back, who is this?
Well, you smashed your phone. So we do advance to probably 22, maybe 21 hours later, and you're sitting in the passenger seat as Jackson is driving you back to your place, and you're just leaving from probably the AT&T store with your new phone. And they were kind enough to hook the old one up, and they transferred over what information they could. Do you have a reasonable excuse as to why it looks like your phone was clenched to death?
I'll say that it got caught in a vice in my workshop and got smashed.
It checks out.
And they take that at face value. It's a bunch of retail service persons who are curious, but not that curious.
They also don't get paid enough for that.
No.
They didn't get paid enough. And I have insurance on the phone. They give me a new one, man.
And Jackson is driving with the left hand on the wheel. Right hand has his own phone sort of up by the dash with the brightness literally down to like how the hell could anybody potentially see? And the answer is, well, he's a vampire. And he goes, wow, the diction is interesting. I wouldn't have described you this way myself.
I hope not. Also, it's bad to text and drive. Shouldn't you be keeping an eye on the road? I know I don't drive, but you know, look out.
And he does this crazy thing that you've seen him do once or twice as well, where like the visceral form of himself stays facing forward and that smirk comes back on his face, but like a visage you're able to see nevertheless turns and looks at you with sort of like that, really?
Jackson, I've had a bad day. And now I have to load up this new phone, and now I have to get a new case for the new phone. And I don't know how they knew. I don't know how they knew about Hans, and I'm just not feeling great. It's just made me sad and angry. And not to paraphrase the Hulk, but you don't like it when I'm angry, mainly because you're a Tremere and you haven't lifted a weight a day in your life, and I could probably smack you out of this car with a paw. So,
first of all, that is incredibly rude and only slightly true. Second. And he just puts the phone down and he grips your hand. Even though you were like rapidly trying to get your phone back together using both, he takes your left hand and just like grips it. And that half like visage of him is still looking at you, but now it has like a genuinely like, I'm sorry sort of face, just with reference to the frustration you have. You've seen him do this a few times. It's weird. Because you get the notion that if people looked hard enough, they would be able to see this weird, like, spectral version of himself looking off to the right while he's very obviously facing forward. But it's nighttime. You're going 45 to 50 miles per hour, depending on where you are on the road, and you're used to it. So he's definitely driving, but he's giving you like a, I'm so sorry. Do you want to watch Bake Off?
Look, if you want to watch, I hold his hand back and then I give him like a kiss. I'm assuming his hand is on top, so I kiss it and then put it back because he needs to drive the car. And I'm like, look, I know you want to watch Bake Off and I like it. If you want to watch it, we can watch it. It's fine. You can pick.
It's a good show.
And yeah, getting back to the play, his place or yours?
I think his place today. I don't want to be at home.
Got it. You're both in West Portland. That's where you've decided to reside so close to Forest Park. There's a cairn there that you care about, and that also happens to be the domain of the Tremere, so it's not a far drive between places. And sure enough, you relax, potentially grab a glass of wine.
No, it will be a tea. I don't think Tamsin will like drinking when she's in a bad mood, because just like Jackson, when he's excessively hungry, can lead to bad things. Her being in a bad mood can also lead to bad things, and she doesn't feel like property damage today apart from her phone. So we're going to leave it there.
That's more than fair. You haven't really made acquaintanceship with Cassandra just yet, so property damage doesn't feel warranted at this time. Yes.
I will point out, in the main series, I've never damaged anyone's property. It's the boy.
It's literally never been Flynn or Tamsin, it's everyone else.
Yeah.
It's everyone else who's the problem. We're the good ones, okay?
If it's anybody's fault, it's this guy. Sometimes a discipline or a gift, the powers of the vampires and the werewolves, give cause for one to make a die roll that doesn't combine an attribute and a skill, but instead is 2 attributes or 2 skills. It's rare. But in this case, it's very relevant, as I ask KJ to use Flynn's skills of technology and stealth, or technology and subterfuge, to guide how hidden Gillian is on the internet.
Can I use my specialty of misdirection?
Oh, 100%.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I have this guy for. Internet security.
Yep.
That one fell. And this one. That
Jackson
one.
is... No, go ahead.
4 successes.
4 successes? Okay. And... Alex, I should have had the two of you roll this at the same time, but you and Jackson have a relaxing evening to an extent, and you know full well that he'll be up for hours and hours and hours, but at some point you'll have to go to bed. Regardless of what activities you got into, eventually he's doing his own thing, and you're rifling through this new phone, which I think for narrative purposes, if we said was like an S21 or S22, you're now fully utilizing the abilities of an S23 and your glass walker abilities to go combing through the interwebs. Gillian, please now give me technology and investigation. We're going to do 2 skills or another combination that you might be able to rationalize.
Wait, am I doing this or is Flynn doing this?
Yeah.
You're trying to find me.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do investigation and technology. Would data mining, my specialty, apply?
100%.
Yeah. So you're
Good.
essentially trying to beat 4 successes?
I got 5, baby.
Woo! Now, that does mean you succeed without too much issue. Nevertheless, within probably a few days' time, because you do have to, finish your week of work, and you potentially have other projects you need to work on, but this is definitely worth hyper fixating on. They called into question the means by which that heinous act you were part of, because it wasn't you that decided to do that. You were definitely a part of it, but it wasn't your choice, with Hans back in Oxford. And they knew about Hans. The 2 details, though related, are 2 separate points of anger that have given cause for you to feel extra mad these last few days. And when the weekend eventually arrives, you do find your way down to probably, we won't have to worry about the actual office names, but like news publication A. And they actually have like Gillian Paulson like in their staff. And you sort of like, chase that down, make your way to the building, immediately clock, well, wait, hold on, that's not the right person. And you do a little bit of additional sleuthing, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. There's this WeWork not too far from downtown, and somebody named like Gillian Adams like works out of there pretty frequently, and they appear to be like a pretty big blogger. That would make sense. They're probably with the Northwest Weird. And heading down to this space, you don't find them. You actually have to track them to a coffee place, and you fully discovered that this is like the most boring vanilla human who thinks they're edgy in the world. And in a similar fashion, over that entire weekend is spent chasing down 6 different Gillians that fit the bill but aren't quite right by the time you actually chase them down and get additional information. KJ, can you imagine any detail about Flynn's actual personage that finally is what like Tamsin catches onto to chase you down?
I think part of it is what he wore to the college is relatively similar to what he wears, not day to day, but night to night. And it's the fact that he is only out at night. He's not a party person. He has a couple of local spots that he likes. He's mostly a homebody, so part of the reason it's hard to find him is because he's not very active out in public.
Mm-hmm.
And he purposely made his pen name so detached from his actual name that it is harder to find him. I think part of what tips you off is remembering reading through that article and the fact that it felt like more than one person writing it. And you happen to see him, I don't know, at a grocery store or a cafe or something, getting food, diner late at night. And either hear him talking to himself or happen to catch him writing an article and reading snoopily over his shoulder and catching the similarities.
I like the latter, unless Alex feels differently, because as a glasswalker, one can make a strong argument that if Flynn was diligent enough to use one of those screen protectors in public, where you literally have to be right behind them to see what's actually showing on the screen, somebody with your abilities could potentially like force additional brightness out so that you would be unobstructedly off to the left or the right and be able to make out what you wouldn't have otherwise seen. That seems like a cool flex.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of like, because obviously animal eyes reflect differently to human eyes do. So I like to
Mhm.
think the way where like my eyes work with my glasses, especially if I'm activating like one of my sense the true form abilities, is that I could probably just see through the screen protector like it means nothing to me. It reflects like a different frequency or whatever of light, so I can just like
Yeah.
focus in and not even like purposefully looking over the shoulder because she knows that would be a rude and weird thing to do in public. Just like looking at people and she's like, that person looks kind of familiar from somewhere. And then like it's that cut zoom in on the article and it's like, I've seen that writing structure somewhere before. And then the Kill Bill sirens start going off around her head.
Do you approach in person directly after all of these false leads have played out the way they have, or do you wait to like message them?
I'll wait. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get into a thing in public because that's uncomfy.
I
And
would
also,
say you probably found him at like 11, 12 at night, so there wouldn't be a ton of people around, but the energy coming off of him is a kind of confusing, Mitch. Like, he seems very relaxed and chill. Like, what he was probably writing in that moment was either a blog post or one of these short stories. So he's relaxed. He's in his comfort zone. He's in a place that he feels safe. So it's a little less, but you can feel it's not nervous energy. He's scatterbrained, but that's just how he is all of the time because of the Malkavian nature. You can tell there's something just off about him that he doesn't seem entirely human.
oh yeah, I'm going to activate Sense the True Form and see if I can see what is up with this person, if having a nervous breakdown or whether there's something else. It's Wits and Wisdom.
Yep.
So that's 6 dice for me.
And is there
I
anything
roll
that Flynn
anything?
is? Yeah.
It says, so I've written my notes here on, so Sense the True Form is a Garou ability that I get because I'm a Philodox. It's one of the ones I chose when I made Tamsin. It costs me 1 willpower to use, so I will mark that I've used willpower. And it has different difficulties depending on what I'm trying to sense. So if I am trying to sense like a pre-change Garou, it's a difficulty of 3. If I'm trying to sense a Kindred, it's like a difficulty of 2 to 4. And I got 3 successes, so I guess it would depend on how well Flynn is trying to cover up that he's a Kindred in public.
Well, so unlike one of our Garou and one of our Kindred in our main game, I took one of the look features that makes me very baseline unnoticeable for most of the public purposely. So I did not ask you to turn on. So visually he doesn't look that different. Using that, you would be able to tell that what could be mistaken as brown eyes are definitely red. He mutters to himself every once in a while, and maybe in a moment of frustration of not being able to figure out the right word he's looking for, you'd see a little bit of fang extend from under a lip, and that's it. He's relatively well just integrated.
If he looks like he's struggling to find the word, I'll go and order a tea or something from like the coffee place if it's one of those places that's like open all the time.
One of those
And then
internet cafes.
Yeah, one of those internet places, and then I'll walk and like sit down beside him at like one of the desks and start sipping my tea, and I go, the word circumvented would go really well if that's the word you're trying to find.
100% didn't notice you sit down until you started talking, in which case there's a little bit of a jump. And it almost seems to happen more than once in a quick, rapid succession. And he just closes the laptop slowly and like turns over to you. Can I help you?
Maybe. I'm Tamsin. I think you attended one of my lectures and wrote a very succinct hit piece. I want to say hit piece, but that wouldn't do your writing justice. It was actually very good. Succinct, semi-factual smear article about me on the weird website. I believe it was you. Jillian, right?
Don't know what you're talking about. I can roll like a deception adjacent check if you want me to.
Sure. We should. Please, Alex, give me wits insight, and KJ, please give me manipulation and subterfuge or a relevant skill.
This is so funny that I have this many dice in these things specifically.
I did not roll that well. So.
That is 2 successes and a crit.
Only the one, though.
Just the one.
Okay.
I got 3 successes.
So it's
3.
tied.
We're gonna go with meets it, beats it. Yeah, you get the sense that they genuinely could be not the person you're looking for, except that you, in that time and staring at them, you were able to note, like, kind of reconstruct what they would look like had they not had the cloth mask over their face. And more importantly, the ability that you have, it's not called sense the true form, it's scent the true form. And you are able to just tell, not only by way of the little fang that you noticed, etc., that this is one of those kindred, and it all begins smashing itself together. You noticed 3 different styles of writing combined into one, and although it fit well, they were distinct. And this is a moonchild. You're a moonchild, but within Kindred Society, this must be one of Malkov's. And additional details begin clicking into place. And all this happens in the span of about a second. You are... they're believable when they tried to deny that they're who you're looking for, but
Like, he's starting to, like, put the laptop in a bag to, like, get up and leave. Doesn't look panicked or anything, but doesn't want to be here anymore.
Look, I was kind of mad about it. I'm impressed on how you found a lot of that information. That's usually my specialty. But I don't appreciate...
With all due respect, if we're going to keep talking about this, it shouldn't be here.
Do either of you know the code to the bathroom? And it's a pretty strong out looking like grad student aged person. They're like, I really need the code to the bathroom.
Flynn just like leans forward to look at the guy and gives the code because this is one of his normal spots and would know it.
Mm-hmm. And that person begins shuffling away from the two of you with legs so tight that you have to wonder if maybe there was an accident.
Not here.
Yeah, especially not here after the bathroom gets destroyed with whatever that person's going to do to it. Luckily, I got a to-go cup.
Well, I'm not taking you to mine, and I don't think I want to go to yours, but I do have a car that we can talk in if that makes you more comfortable.
There was this whole PSA thing about not getting into cars with strangers, but I think in this case we'll both be fine.
It's up to you, really. Otherwise, I'm just going home.
Yeah, let's go in the car.
Get, like, stands up and starts walking out.
And
Yeah,
what do
I'll
you
follow.
Yeah.
It's I don't have like a specific thing in mind. It's like a generic vehicle. Like it's not noticeable. You're noticing a theme with him. He blends in very well, whether intentionally or just based on tastes. I think it would be like a black small car, nothing too big, generic, maybe a Chevy of some kind.
It's a 2012 Prius because the city of Portland has so many Priuses.
Yeah, just generic. It doesn't look like it looks well kept, but not nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's clean on the inside, but definitely used.
My most important question for you of the evening: do you have an air freshener? And if so, what scent?
So technically yes, but not the ones that people would think of. It's very similar to what I have in my car. Granted, mine is just a dead ass D20 in a little cage that hangs from my rearview mirror, but it's something similar to that. It's more of not quite incense, but a little bit. Flynn doesn't give off very much of a smell, but that's because of this. So it's a little hint of maybe citrus, but mostly would remind you of like a pine forest like a day after it rains.
That sounds
You know-
pleasant.
Do you know what's hilarious about that? Is when I was creating Tamsin, I wrote that she smelled of ichor and pine.
Amazing.
Smells
So
like
it's a
me.
relatively like pleasant, comforting aroma within the car. Everything's a little stale, but not enough to be like weird.
And what do you assume between the two of you at this time would be the nature of the conversation?
I think it would be Tamsin's not being aggressive in any way, just making her presence known, and is more trying to ask roundabout questions of, look, hey, I get smeared a lot. I'm a female professor at a university, and I'm also a guru that's in a university that's run by vampires. It's normal practice. How did you know about hands? That's impressive.
You notice a light tonal shift in his voice, and one of the voices in his head is not like fully taking control, but is heavily influencing the way he's speaking. And he answers in a very roundabout way of like, I have friends in small places.
Having friends is
And
a good
this is
quality to have.
Especially if
Storyteller.
they're useful.
Mhm.
Do you only keep around friends who are useful?
Not necessarily. I've got a roommate.
Oh, nice. Not many kindred have roommates. You guys are usually, I don't know, not
Do you
very
know what
trusting.
Do you know what rent prices are right now?
Yes, I rent a house. It's a lot.
Enough said.
It's actually refreshing to meet a kindred who is more down to earth and actually works for a living.
Oh, yeah, I hold a job and carry my weight in society. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't
Flynn-
saying you didn't.
Flynn would probably, after some answers are given and some are not, maybe a little frustratingly, would offer to give Tamsin a ride to wherever she needs to go if she would like it.
It's okay. I won't make you have to come into Garou territory if you don't want to. That feels a bit forward for a first date.
You're funny.
I am funny. But I would like to know, just, this is an ask, not a threat. I want a distinct, my accent, people tend to think I'm threatening when I'm actually being sincere sometimes. Please don't write about Hans again. It makes me exceptionally sad.
Oh, just to make this entirely clear to you, the only reason I wrote that article is because I was bored as shit. You're an interesting individual. I had to do a lot of digging. I took about 2 months for me to actually gather all the information for that I needed. It's not my paper. I write for the Mercury for the most part. Like, you'll find that same pen name in legitimate articles for real life stuff. Every once in a while, if I'm bored and I have another journalist who thinks I might have an easier time doing it, I'll take some of those weirder stuff. It's a one-off. It's not going to happen again.
Fair enough. Just so you know, if you do, though, I will find out and erase your entire history from the internet. That one was a threat. But it seems like you're actually a pretty sensible person. And if you ever get bored and you want to be paid to write something more interesting that I can throw your way for the Garou, or just to hang out, you seem like a person with a lot of thoughts in their head.
Coming from the person that just threatened me might take a little more time than coming to hang out.
I can't possibly think of a better transition, as Tamsin undoubtedly nods to that. That's not an untoward or unreasonable response to a Garou, having just threatened somebody who, upon getting to know them a lot better, is not necessarily combat intensive or forward. You exit the vehicle when it's appropriate to do so, and we smash to approximately 1 year later as you similarly step out of the Prius, and wouldn't you know it, you're outside of the old merchant hotel building, otherwise known as Old Town Pizza and Brewing. And Flynn, you've been tasked by Prince Thera Rosemary by way of Judith, the Primogen for Clan Malkavian in the city of Portland, to help investigate a series of disappearances that unfortunately have to do with Nina. Nina is, of course, the ghost that people purport to be haunting this building, and unfortunately, some teenagers who really enjoy ghost adventures and phasmophobia and other similar things wherein people popularized looking for ghosts in untoward places thought it would be funny to break into the building after hours, and it's been 3 days. No CCTV footage from outside has ever tracked them exiting the building. A semi-thorough search of the Portland Underground and the vicinity has been performed, as well as in the building itself, and unfortunately, genuinely no sign of these kids has presented itself, and the chatter across the weird, as well as throughout the rest of the supernatural community in Portland, seems to suggest that, unfortunately, Project First Light and some other entities that are more hunter and anti-supernatural forward are beginning to get attention on the matter. The prince asked the Primogen has asked you, and with a very similar line of requests by way of the dissemination of information, somebody passed a request to look into this along to Ben. Ben being the pack leader for your little group of Garou that go traipsing around not only in West Portland, Tamsin, but throughout the rest of the city. And he is not a great investigator in this respect. So he has asked you to tag along on this venture, knowing full well that a Kindred has been tasked with this also. It's probably about half an hour to 45 minutes after sunset, which means it's still open for business as a pizzeria, and people don't use the hotel for lodging any longer. But you're here, you got some kids to find.
Would this be a location that Flynn would be knowledgeable of, or have had any interactions with the suspect's supernatural entity that's supposed to live here?
Go ahead and give me a preparedness roll, and as a result, that means I'm going to ask you to roll intelligence plus occult would be the relevant stat for this one.
With my specialty in superstitions.
For sure.
Can Flynn add an extra one if I help them prepare, on the way over here, by doing some research beforehand?
For sure.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure these dice don't fall off the edge. That is, including a set of crits, 6 successes.
Excellent. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 crits?
Yes.
So that is 8 successes, critically speaking, for a preparedness check. Yes. And as a result of that, I'm going to go ahead and guess that Flynn doesn't go out of his way to eat pizza.
Flynn has been known to eat food every once in a while. He doesn't have, the thing you can take as a kindred to allow you to eat, but it also doesn't bother him very much. So every once in a while, if like Ronan wanted to go and eat something to keep up appearances, he would. So potentially, this also could have just been one of the local entities that he's written about before.
Of course. And Nina is, when people report sightings of her, commonly associated with like a strange woman in black in the dining area that people do see during general business hours. As a matter of fact, somebody might have seen Nina tonight. And after hours, people will hear like faint whisperings from a female voice. And that night in particular, they didn't think any femme presenting persons were on staff. Or they'll hear like some thumps above when they know full well that nobody should be in the stock area because of how busy it is downstairs. So Flynn very well could have come before. If Ronan was like, yeah, I'm thinking pizza, Flynn would maybe be like, maybe we go to this place. Or upon Ronan being like, oh, I want to try this place out, Flynn would be like, that would be immaculate, and is in the car before Ronan is. Like whatever the extent to which I'm more humorizing Flynn than is generally presented, you undoubtedly have been here before. I don't believe you would have had an encounter with Nina, even with that many phenomenal successes, but you are deeply aware of her history, at least as it's been presented in the occult scene, which is very tourist forward with reference to her actual appearances. But with an 8 critical success, I'm pretty sure you've tracked down somebody who genuinely had an interaction with her and made that interaction out to be shocking, but benevolent.
Flynn would have filled Tamsin in on the car ride here. I've never interacted with her before, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. Probably the best place to start getting information, aside from looking for clues or details that local law enforcement might have missed. Never been known to be aggressive, but also supernatural entities, as far as I'm aware, can get aggressive when pestered. So kind of anything goes.
Yeah, usually they just kind of want to be left alone, especially if they've been separated from the Umber and belong there. Also, hold on, I just need to send a text really fast. And I get up Jackson's like message thread on WhatsApp and I'm just like, guess who's going ghost hunting in the pizzeria? Lol, 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 lol. And press send. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Also, can we actually get a pizza? I'm really hungry and I've had back-to-back classes and I haven't eaten anything today. I get really hungry if I don't. Yeah.
I don't see why not. I brought blood supply for me so I can be snacking, mix it in with another drink.
Okay, but you're going to keep that on the down. You're just going to pull a blood bag out and just...
If I'm bringing them out in public, they look like Capri Sun pouches. I'm not that stupid.
Okay, I was just... Sometimes... Look, I know there are no stupid questions.
I get it.
Look, I once saw a grad student not being able to figure out why a computer wasn't working. They hadn't plugged it in. So look, there was...
No, I get it. But also...
Yeah.
How long did it take you to figure out who I actually was?
It only took me 2 days, and when I walked past you, I knew who you were.
Okay, but also you're a supernatural entity who has specialities in technological subterfuge. Anyways, and gets out of the car and starts walking inside.
I had to go and buy a new phone, and it took all... That's one of the days! It was one of the days!
I pictured a lot of this conversation happening, by the way, like, and continuing, even if points were already established. Like, from the car, we inside standing in line, at the table, the pizza has arrived. Yet this is still...
Yep.
I'm just going, listen, I know, Flynn, you don't like going to places, but AT&T take forever to get a new phone, even when you have insurance.
Why don't you just order it online? It's so much quicker, and if you pay for faster shipping, it gets here so fast.
Well, I could just go, and I got a lift, and I got it the same day. It's just the principle of it me taking longer meant I lost those hours. So I would have found you in like a day. Hey, that's a customer service problem.
Flynn, the room is immediately about 10 degrees colder, to the extent that, like a swimmer jumping in the water used to a certain degree of temperature in the pool, is able to tell when a single degree is shifted in the opposite direction of pleasantness. You look over to your left, and sitting in the seat at this 4-person table between you and Tamsin in that direction is the image of Alexander. And Alexander at this time is wearing the exact same outfit that he was in when you killed him. and he picks up at least what would mirror him actually being at the table and doing a slice of pizza, and is investigating it as he states, yeah, this is going to sound pretty obvious, but you realize we're not alone here right now, don't you, babe?
You visually watch as we're having this friendly feud. Flynn get noticeably quiet. You watch his eyes flick over to a different table and then focus back on you. Looks like he's listening to someone. Gets a little twitchity, which you haven't noticed a ton because we haven't interacted a lot, and then looks visibly disgusted.
I try and like follow the eye line and see if I see anything over in that direction. Like, do I see?
I'm actually going to ask you to make a wits and awareness check.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And KJ, Flynn can make the same check, but I'll ask, in response to what he had to say, does Flynn activate anything along the lines of sense the unseen or
I don't have sense the unseen, but I do have heightened senses, and he absolutely would.
That gets you your additional die. And unfortunately, Alex, you don't have cause at the moment to think that's necessary because Flynn hasn't said anything. Yeah.
It's wits and what?
Awareness. Plus the 1 die.
I only got 2 successes. I'm too hungry. I'm eating my pizza and then like glancing a little bit.
So what happens is you look over and there's a young woman, probably like 24 to 26 range, who's like nervously eating a cannoli and like looking at Flynn and then back down at the food and sort of at the wall next to her and then back at Flynn, because ostensibly Flynn didn't realize it, just gave her like the dirtiest look in the world, because to Flynn there was somebody between. Yeah. So
that 3 successes.
3 successes. Okay. 3 with heightened senses in particular, it doesn't capture anything in particular, but you sort of do a scan of the room and you do hover ever so slightly on Tamsin directly in front of you. Tamsin, who I assume is looking over this woman, trying to wonder what it is that she did to piss you off, but also not being dumb and is aware that something must have just happened with this Malkavian. And as you look sort of like off to the right, which heads down the hall to not an alleyway, but sort of like a back patio that itself leads to the nearest alley. There's also the stairs that head both down and up. There's the hallway off to the bathroom. This is a nexus towards the back of the restaurant section, and there are many alcoves in this space, many corners in which things can be hiding. But in that direction in particular, you at the very least see haze in the air that doesn't seem attributed to anything substantial or of this plane.
There's no explanation to the look that he gave, but Flynn just kind of taps on the table a little bit and discreetly, like this hand covering where anyone might see, will then point in the direction of the haze.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like eating, just like, you know, I'm sat close enough to you. You can just whisper to me, right?
You never know who's listening.
I don't know, but you just gave that woman over there major stink eye, so she probably is now.
It wasn't the woman, and I feel really bad about it now, but in the moment, it was very warranted for what I did see.
Who'd you see? What is she? Is it cool Malkavian stuff? What'd you see?
That is a conversation for when we're more acquainted with each other.
Okay. So there's haze over there. Should we go look at it?
I mean, be a little surreptitious about it. Have you never scoped out a joint?
No, I teach all day.
Okay. If you've got any of your, like, wolfy magic stuff, I don't know.
Okay, first off, it's umbral senses, okay? That's what it's called. I guess you're not wrong, but you're not right. Anyway, let's just go over there.
Both of you get briefly washed over by a flash of light, and you see that woman go, shit, as she lowers her phone, and you see her rapidly tapping on the screen in such a fashion that the flash goes off. And it doesn't take too much work to realize that she was pointing her phone in the direction that Flynn had just seen the haze in the air, because upon looking in that direction, she's looking that way now too, that she's turned the flash off, and she picks her phone back up to face in that direction, and unfortunately the haze is no longer present. It seems as though this brief interaction and the words you were saying, because she was now paying attention to the weird table, gave cause for her to notice the shift in the air. And unfortunately, drawing attention to it that way gave cause for it to run off.
This is why you. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Do you want a slice of pizza in spirit, even though you can't eat it?
It's that look of like the face I just made of like a little bit of frustration, but also can't really be upset about it because it's from Ernest. Because they always have like a knife and fork. We'll slice off a bit, so if Tamsin would like to have the rest of this slice, it's not like I've bitten out of it, and we'll have a singular bite.
Now, I would like the two of you to do me a quick solid, and I need one of you to make an intelligence and investigation roll, and I need the other of you to make an intelligence and occult roll.
How many dice do you have in each, Flynn? I have 4 intelligence and 4 investigation.
I have 3 intelligence, 3 investigation. I've got 3 intelligence, 2 occult, but if we are leaning on superstitions, I get 3 in occult.
Maybe I could do occult then, because I get a specialty for spirits, so I'd have 8 dice total for investigation and occult.
So I'd have
you want to do
6
investigation
first.
Yeah.
So-
okay, cool. I'll do intelligence and occult then.
I'm looking for intelligence and investigation from Flynn. I'm looking for intelligence and occult from Tamsin. And the two of you hang around long enough to try to see if another sighting occurs, which unfortunately it does not. And you are crafty enough with the direction of Flynn to be able to remain behind as the restaurant begins to close down, to be stashed away appropriately, because after all, this was a hotel and there are plenty of places to hide away. That after it's been cleaned, the staff is taken off after hanging out ever so slightly longer than closing would have warranted, because even though they all want to go home, they had that brief moment of, now that it's actually time to leave, what if we just chatted for a quick sec? One of them trades weed with the other, and then the two of you are alone in this place. So whenever you're ready, let me know. Occult, investigation.
I like to think we're just stood awkwardly in like a small broom cupboard, just like back to back or something. Just stood there.
Flynn doesn't like breathe or give off much scent, doesn't have a heartbeat, so realistically, Flynn's idea is, yeah, you go stand in there, I hide in plain sight because no one can fucking hear me.
And I have 0 stealth, so I get in a cupboard. I got 4 successes for occult and intelligence.
That's so funny. Of a dice pool of 6, that is 6.
Ooh. Okay. Now, this is an interesting pool based on the difficulties that I set, because both of you working together, but one of you leading the charge in one of these two efforts, the other leading the charge in the other, you're eventually able to chase down Nina. Or is her name Sandra? You interact with a spirit in the restaurant, and she communicates to you that for some reason, people have attributed to this name Nina, which is oddly similar to her actual name, Sandra, as a result of somebody having scratched the word Nina into one of the bricks in the dining area 10 or so years ago. And she's been hiding and trying to scare off anybody who is staying overnight, but was herself scared of the two of you when you stayed, because she could sense the obvious supernatural nature of the two of you. And as opposed to me just doing show, not tell, now as opposed to me doing more tell than show, I'll jump into this interaction, if you don't mind, with the two of you before we settle on the 6 out of 6 for investigation. So leaning into the occult side of the investigation, Sandra, who sure enough is in like a early 1900s period, like very formal black dress, giving her the look of somebody who probably worked in this hotel in like a higher capacity, is talking to you both and jumping midway into the conversation. All right, I wasn't planning on speaking to the two of you because you're much more capable than some of the others who tried to be here overnight recently. But nevertheless, I have to urge you to leave. It is not safe for anyone in this place.
We know. We're looking for people who went missing a few days ago. Do you know what
We just
happened?
need to know where they are.
They'll never be found again. You have to leave now.
We're fine with leaving. We just need information because we have people of our people. They're gonna send hunters here, and then you're in danger.
Hunters are the least of my worries. They cannot touch me outside of the Skinlands, even with their best trained individuals. No, if you don't wish to be brought into the Oblivion, you have to leave now.
Can you give us any information on what's going on here? We can find a way to keep people from coming here, and then you can have peace of mind.
And you see her, with that question, become immediately very tense. And she says, "No. If you're here shortly, I'll return. And then she sort of like flickers and fades ever so slightly. And as a result of your previous high success on an occult roll, just to get her nature, I'll go ahead and state that your research around wraiths, you know that her equivalent of you having Ronin, and in the research that you've done about Tamsin, her equivalent of having, Dr. Jackson or some of the other Garou in her life, for wraiths, it's similarly the case that they have affiliations that help them to feel human by way of mortals who have been left behind, but they also have, direct associations with physical objects that might have been tied to them in their mortal lives. And disturbances to either those mortal touchstones or those physical objects could have an effect on their ability to remain stable on this side of their respective veil. And the way in which she briefly titters out of existence gives cause for you to think, okay, something important of hers has been disturbed. And if she's a ghost tied to this place, it's reasonable to think, okay, something or someone must be here with us at present. And that gives cause for us to touch on the 6 successes on an investigation and intelligence roll. This night's investigation, shocking absolutely no one, does take you into the Portland Underground. And the Portland Underground is a maze of contemporary mortal society created tunnels and sewage passageways, as well as those created largely by the Sabbat in the 1800s, spilling into the early 1900s before the Camarilla took over handily between the 50s and 60s of the 20th century. And whether or not either of you have gone down into this place before, you know enough about it that as soon as your investigation yielded that you needed to go down here, the two of you did not do so lightly this night without serious consideration of seeking backup. But with Sandra's words in mind, and knowing full well that even though she said those people are doomed, they could still be here, you went down to the basement, you found the obvious entrance into the underground from the basement, and eventually you found another woman. Despite it being 6 out of 6 investigation successes for Flynn, this other woman resonates more clearly and closely with Tamsin's sensibilities, because Tamsin, you find a Fomori. A mortal Fomori. This person has been touched by a spirit of the Wyrm tied very strongly with anguish. And this woman, although reasonably well put together, hiding no fewer than 80 feet underground once you've gone through the basement into 2 or 3 sublevels of the underground, none of which is uniform in height or space. She's, relatively well put together, so much so that, as a matter of fact, she looks like she could have blended in at dinner this evening. She might have been there. And so is that young woman with the phone, who had potentially caught on to the conversation that the two of you were having at dinner. And I am terribly sorry to tell you that 4 out of the other individuals in this space, sat up as if they were at a table all having dinner, are no longer among the living. But this last girl is. And the Fomori is muttering about how it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Dinner's gonna be ready any second. It's gonna be ready any second. Everyone's here now, it has to be ready any second. And you happen upon this situation in which you're not necessarily certain if the spirit of the worm is capitalizing on a traumatic moment of this woman's past or if it's genuinely the trauma of the spirit itself. But 3 dead bodies, maybe 4, one live person you saw upstairs just a few hours ago, and a Fomori that you're not certain is beyond the brink or if they're able to be saved.
Do any of the other bodies here look like the people who went missing a few days ago?
Very clearly so.
Flynn, no flash, is going to take picture and video of this room to have as documentation. Is not good at talking to people because he's a little off the wall himself, and is just gonna kind of like gently elbow Tamsin and like.
I'll go up to the girl that was at dinner. Who is she currently possessed by a Fomori, or is a Fomori just sort of like hovering around? Sort of like is it like the black dog on the shoulder, or is it like she's fully possessed by this Fomori right now?
So the woman edification, Fomori are usually, not considering the events of Night of the Wyrm, mortals who have been inhabited, possessed by spirits of the worm. So there's one woman walking about the space, and she is very clearly possessed by this spirit of anguish. And then there's the young woman who Flynn thought was glaring at her, who is bound and visibly breathing but unconscious at the table at present. And unfortunately, part of that having been bound is literally being staked through the legs and shoulders into a large chair.
Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna walk towards where she's sat, but I'm gonna address at the same time the Fomori that's walking around and go, are you waiting for someone for dinner?
She goes, I honestly don't know. I think everybody's here and dinner's almost ready.
Well, why don't you
She's
come
not
and sit
looking at you.
Well, why don't you come and sit next to me and we can have a chat before dinner starts? I mean, food will be here soon.
Your difficulty is 6, and what I need from you is charisma and persuasion.
Can I help by pretending to be, quote unquote, like a waiter bringing like an appetizer?
I
need manipulation and subterfuge.
Sure.
Your
Can I add
difficulty
my-
is also 6.
Can I add my calming persuasion, my calming specialty?
Yes.
Thanks.
I keep dropping dice. I need.
Let them
I don't
free.
have-
Set them free.
I don't have like a tray.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's chaotic how it was meant to be, just like Flynn.
So real. So I had a dice pool of 5, but I had 2 crits, and all of the others were successes.
That's 4 and 3 make 7. 7 successes with a crit. Okay. And Tamsin, you
Two.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So
I think he's temporarily like I'm not good at this. Lets one of the others swap out.
phenomenal. Your posture straightens ever so slightly. One arm goes behind, one arm comes up in front of you as if cloth were draped over it. And looking about the space, there are numerous dead rats, unfortunately some small cats and other animals throughout the space that have clearly been half bitten, a little bit torn apart. And looking about the floor, you are able to come up with a few things you can pick up to help this masquerade, that you're maintaining at the moment. And your other personality comes alive and begins tending to the table, straightening a few things up, putting down a few odds and ends, from the floor down, and you make it clear that you are indeed setting the space for, a pre-dinner hors d'oeuvres. And do you stay standing nearby, or do you sit down at the table?
I think he's banking on the fact that this possessed individual isn't paying much attention to him and more on Tamsin, and will do the thing of like coming up to the table and then will disappear and just like do a a little bit of a walk around and then come back to the table, kind of a thing, like how your servers will come in and check up on you.
Yep. And you do eventually, like, placing some things, moving some things, you get a note from her that'll be all. Like, she addresses you as if, yes, you're part of the scene that's happening at the moment. And Tamsin, you are able to get her to finally, like, stop looking around and gathering things. And both of you at this point, your eyes have adjusted even down to complete darkness to the ability with your supernatural faculties to see in the space. And you're able to notice this is not a kitchen. Yeah, there's a table down here. There's even a couple of chairs. They're not uniform, but, like, it's not obvious beyond her unfortunate insanity what it is that she's waiting on to progress the situation. You know it can't possibly be good if the others present are dead and this person was only just brought down here this evening and has unfortunately been stabbed literally through with steak knives. And she looks to you for the first time, and she says, dinner has to be perfect. I don't think you understand.
Why don't you explain it to me and I can help make dinner perfect?
She goes, it's not necessarily about the dinner. It's about why we're having the dinner tonight. I have to tell them. If they know, then everything's going to be just fine. And you see she stops looking at you and she looks over at the bodies. The 3, 4 that are passed away. I keep forgetting the first number that I said, but I'll commit to 3. The 3 that are dead, the one that is not. And she says, as soon as they know, it can all stop.
Well, I can help you tell them. What is it they need to know? We can figure it out together.
You can't know. And the voice is not hers. Dinner has to happen. It's going to happen soon. It's so important that they know. If they know, it's better. That all comes from one voice with a variety of different intonations. And that next one, as her jaw briefly distends, and you swear her teeth are longer for the briefest of moments, her fingers a little bit more claw-like as she sort of like tucks in on herself and considers you once again, she whispers that they can't. You, not they, you cannot know. She sort of shudders back into her previous state, and she says, I'm not in love with him. And she sort of like walks against the wall and then busily removes herself from the space. You had come into this not chamber, it's kind of like a long hallway by way of one entrance, and we'll state that she walks sort of out of what your 5th edition dark vision would make clear in the opposite direction briefly, and she's moving at a very fast pace, and it's super not clear where she just went or what she's doing.
Well, that was disturbing.
Did it look like she had any of the markings or scarrings that would be obvious from the woman who was staked to the chair?
No.
Okay, so it's not a cycle in that way.
Nope.
Does it?
Now, sorry, go ahead.
Does it look like we could remove this woman from this chair without killing her?
I need you to give me an intelligence and medicine check, please.
I can do it if you. I can do medicine and intelligence if you'd like, because I was thinking the same thing.
If that's both of your focus, one if you can roll with the additional die as a representative help.
I don't know if phlebotomy would help me here.
Trauma care might.
Really. Trauma care for sure.
Trauma care word. I would have a dice pool of 4.
I'd have a dice pool of 7.
You go for it.
Oh, 8 if you're helping me though.
Yeah. Go for it.
Nah, you had them at 7, but 8, nah, that's not gonna do it.
Shit, I only got 2 successes and I do want to succeed on this. Can I burn a willpower to roll a few, like to re-roll a few?
You certainly may. For the entirety of the session, you've only burned the 1, so I assume you still have a substantial pool remaining.
I haven't used any of my shit.
Okay, that's an additional 3, so I got 5 successes.
That is more than sufficient. You do some sort of like very earnest but exceptionally fast trauma triage, because you don't know how quickly this person might come back. And you get a pretty good sense that between the two of you, you could probably carry the entire chair and person apparatus. 3 of the wounds staking this person into the chair using literal, probably stolen from up above, like stake knives, are in non-critical enough areas. The tearing off strips of cloth, either from the dead person's, from her own clothing, from your clothing, or anything else you might be able to find nearby, can staunch those wounds by being tied off, that they're safe enough for transport. But it's the one in her left shoulder that's just a little bit too far down, a little bit too far inward, that you're worried if the knife came out, would potentially cause too much bleeding. And if you moved her with the knife still in, would continue to cause damage that could result in, more complications and kill her by the time you made it all the way back out. So difficult, but not impossible.
With that information, Flynn immediately probably has a contact in the police force or hospital, and immediately sends an SOS text with where they are exactly.
Flynn considers doing this immediately upon service returning to their phone.
Oh, that's
Here
right.
you see
We don't have service down here.
He and Tamsin are more than 50 feet underground.
Now, I have a fun gadget that I haven't had a chance to use in the main series yet because everyone is really tough. I'm going to pull out of my bag and you're like, Flynn, hold my backpack, because I've got my small backpack. And I pull out what looks like one of those gel patches you put on burns. And I'm going to place it where the knife is. And if I get the description up for this, excuse my tippy tap keyboard.
Yeah, my mentality was like, if we can have an ambulance waiting there when we get up there, it can be immediately rushed to the hospital.
I'm a wolf. We can run with that. So this is biomesh. This is mesh that's infused with a minor healing rite from the spirit of the orb weaver spider, and mechanically it heals 1 aggravated damage after it's been applied for 10 minutes. So I'm going to apply that to the wound and then try and attempt to move it as it's doing the healing work, which should hopefully staunch the bleeding. And I'm like, Flynn, if I shift, can you get her on my back? On the chair?
On the chair? Chair and all?
I'm a big wolf.
Okay.
Cool, I'm going to shift to Hispa.
So the two of you are rather intelligent people. I think the plan that would make a lot more sense, because unless you strap her down, and what are you going to do that with to be able to efficiently move and move quickly, carrying her out with the strength that Glabro would grant you would probably make a lot more sense. Breaking off the top half of the chair.
Oh, okay, then I was going to shift to Glabro. I wasn't sure what would be most appropriate for the space, so I'll do a rage check to shift to Glabro. Which I succeeded in.
If we have any fan artists, a medical transport Hispo is definitely a more compelling illustration, but presents a lot of complications. Yeah,
that's the Studio Ghibli. That's the Studio Ghibli jumping across the hills.
Yeah, I'm like, especially if you're in the sewer system.
Yeah, you're not. What's cool about the underground is a little fun fact. Unfortunately, people were subject to press gang kidnappings, sleeping down in these tunnels that were built largely very close to the Columbia River waterfront. And it's less so a bunch of sewer tunnels as it is literally just a bunch of hidey holes that people have used for drug storage, drug selling, kidnapping, prostitution, drug dens, all sorts of other Warren-style activities outside of the sewer system, which, by the way, turn the right corner, do make contact with the sewer system. And as a result, you're not there now, but rushing to get out. Yeah, a woman in critical health condition bouncing off of a big wolf back onto a poopy floor, probably not the best idea, despite it once again evoking a weird Princess Mononoke situation, since you said Studio Ghibli. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to shift to Glabro. I succeeded on the rage check, so my rage doesn't increase for the session.
Okay,
I'm going to rip any unessential part of this chair off with my bare hands, apply the biomesh, and then attempt to get the heck out of here, because me and Flynn are not suited for combat.
I don't remember what some of my things are, so I'm reading up a thing real fast.
do things.
So yeah, you switch and shift. Do you get mad?
No, I don't get mad.
All right, no more than Tamsin is always angry as a result of their wolfish form. But you genuinely snap off at the base of the back of the chair. The support's keeping it to the rest of it. You're able to remove the other knives and tie off those 3 wounds as we described it just a moment ago. And you're able to pick her up. And Flynn's the best person to watch your back. KJ, you were looking up something else Flynn might have in his repertoire?
So in my obfuscate skills, I've got Cloak of Shadows and Unseen Passage, and I don't think either of them technically can be used on more than one person.
Nope.
Which is unfortunate, because I was like, in case of this possessed individual coming back, it would be really nice to be harder to be seen.
Yeah.
But I don't think they work on more than one person, which sucks. So I think...
You could still use it on you, and then if someone comes back, they'll only see me and assume you're not there.
Fair. I kind of want to use Premonition.
Yeah, do that.
Let's get a hunger rouse check.
Let's get weird with it. Hunger rouse, that's just 1d10?
That is 1d10. And we'll assume that you began this night with your regular level of hunger, since I didn't ask for a rouse check at the onset of this portion of the session.
That is a critical success.
Excellent. You've already dealt with Alexander tonight. He doesn't pop off in these tunnels in a way that would be inconvenient, to say the least. And you sort of look to your left and then look to your right, and as if you were standing in one of those bathrooms that has the like half-length mirror above the sink, but on both in front of you and behind you, in such a fashion that if you rotate your body enough, you can see infinitesimal numbers of yourself mirroring your movements. You see countless iterations of the personalities, reporters, investigators, outright maniacs and lunatics that all live within Flynn's mind, each of which has a different affinity for looking into matters, different means by which they sleuth out their areas of interest. And looking to your left are some, looking to your right are others, and then they all sort of like slam back like an accordion into yourself, and all those details begin defractaling and coming into a singular focus as you sort of like consider going down in this direction. Will you be caught? Going in this direction? Will you be caught if you go in this direction? Oh God, like there's a whole other nest of some unfortunately like remnant Nosferatus from the Sabbat that are hiding below the city that we would run into, and that's a mess we certainly don't want. You do what Doctor Strange does in Avengers Endgame.
Every possibility.
And you're looking down all the different avenues of the Portland Underground, and it's not the exact same path that you took out, but it's one that's fairly similar to it, that'll pop you out a little bit closer to the water and not directly into the hotel, now pizzeria. But it's probably a good 20-minute journey that has you pausing at certain points, doubling back at certain points, and you're able to draw all of this from the same premonition, because at a certain point, I've said that too many times in this explanation, but at a certain point, you will find yourself being stalked with that woman who, in a fit of rage with her dinner gathering where she had important details to share, having gone awry at the loss of not one, but 2 guests and the waiter, she has fully shifted in a manner that I can most closely describe as being akin to either John Carpenter's The Thing, or in a less grotesque manner, but still pretty bad, like when the T-1000 in Terminator 2 like grows elongated metal arms with prongs. She, in a fit of rage from anguish, has elongated, bent, cracked, her body reforming in such a fashion that she does have hook prong-like arm extensions now, and she's dragging them throughout her bones along the rocks and floors, shrieking that she's supposed to be with her, running down these halls in search of the 3 of you. And it's a pretty harrowing 20 minutes. And Tamsin, even in your heightened state, like your glabro form, it's almost to your deficit that you're maintaining your anger as well as you are, because that's allowing some fear to come in. You've dealt either in a large group with Ben or otherwise, or at least on paper hearing stories with Fomori before. And a single one usually isn't all that bad. But those motherfuckers can do some weird stuff that don't always make sense. And the way in which she has a command of these halls and is stalking the two of you over that like set of 10-minute increments is fucking harrowing. The benefit of which being, however, Flynn, you have a perfect memory based on numerous instances of your potential escape of when to stop, when to go, when to turn around, when to turn left. And you do eventually pop out back through a utility entrance onto the streets. Another 10 to 20 feet up, you are now standing on the sidewalk. And maybe a good 30 to 60 seconds ago, you were able to get a message off to emergency services so that an ambulance isn't immediately waiting, but instead of having to call, they're already on their way. And thankfully, that entire period of time was sufficient for the biomesh to fully kick in and set. And although she is still bleeding, and I am going to be mean and ask Flynn for a hunger check as a result, something that should have been done way back when the knives started getting removed, you do get out.
To be it's a success, but also to be entirely fair, it is against his feeding habits to feed directly from a person.
And in a heightened state of duress, that can occasionally be challenged, but it does seem though as though that does hold true, and you're not tempted. It doesn't happen.
He also brought blood Capri Sun pouches with him.
Oh yeah, worst came to worst, you would just pop one of those bad boys, 100%. Like I imagine you would shotgun the motherfucker.
Absolutely.
If it came to shove.
He's like not breathing, and he's like sweating in like that really cold sweat where it's like, you don't know how he's sweating. He's not alive. Bodily functions don't work that way. But is sweating, and just like there's that look of paranoia on his face that this is a Malkavian and this is a stressful situation, and he's going on the fritz, but in such a quiet manner and still holding it together just enough. Tears one of those puppies open and just in one go every once in a while, just to keep the line in tow.
And what's really nice is B, for you do find out later that her name is Beatrice, B for short, is a University of Oregon student in a graduate program down in Eugene. And she was up here visiting some friends for the weekend. And had you not gone down there and brought her back out, she would never have finished that degree program. She would still be down there months and months later, probably the next time you guys think about it in earnest. But sure enough, you get her into the ambulance. You immediately see the triage individuals giving her the services that are needed. And whether or not these are the specific EMTs that you're probably familiar with or otherwise affiliated with, you get the notion that most emergency service persons in major metropolitan areas in the world of darkness don't ask a lot of questions. They just get to work. And I do want to say at the tail end of that situation, you do get sometime later a check-in message, and it's actually the prince, Sarah Rosemary, and she's checking in. What became of the creature down below?
I think what Flynn would have done, with permission from the right people, have filed a report with the closest set of hunters they could have to take care of it instead of me, because that wasn't happening.
And would you have conspired with Tamsin? Because I'm pretty certain that Tamsin would have gone back to her pack and been like, some of y'all need to go down there, unless I'm wrong.
Flynn might have shot a message and been like, hey, it's probably best for like the hunters to deal with this. They're the most equipped to deal with this kind of problem.
Tamsin goes, in that case, I will not ask the pack to go down there. The humans can deal with that one. We don't like to be anywhere near hunters, but as long as it gets dealt with, then it's fine.
Because in Flynn's brain, like if there's these kind of supernatural stuff, yes, we can handle it, but it makes more sense if hunters do, partially because most of the hunter contacts he have are in some kind of law enforcement or otherwise bounty huntery, whatever, have more leeway with the law.
And this, by the way, I'm not trying to say that this is a bad idea by any means. I was just wondering if there would potentially be some conflict between the two different sources, because different hunter cells have different goals. As a matter of fact, there are certain cells that occasionally have supernatural entities working within them. And I do think it would be very realistic for you to be like, we got this handled. And Tamsin, you would undoubtedly be able to go back and tell Ben, who was giving you this job in some way, shape, or form, like, yep, it's handled, it's totally fine. And hunters would eventually very much so go in there and be utterly fucking horrified because the Portland Underground is a nightmare, and that might be a dungeon crawl we have to run someday. But that matter gets taken care of, and B is just fine now. I'll ask that we shift just a little bit later, probably to the beginning of 2025. And Tamsin, you're considering finally extending an invitation to Flynn to come on by the cottage.
Oh, let's be clear. I've already extended an invitation to Flynn before that, and Flynn has said
Flynn
no.
has said no.
So, but I think this, like, she's been offering and then realizing Flynn said no, so she's left a longer gap between the last ask and then asking again.
I think every time you've asked, there's been some kind of excuse given. Some 100% legitimate. Others, he just doesn't want to go out.
I think I even can sense the difference in that now, and not like I can sense the difference between when a different personality is maybe at this like surfacing and taking over, or when you just don't want to do something. So Tamsin will just go, if you don't want to come over, you can just admit it and say so. You don't have to pretend. It's fine. I'm not offended.
I'm a homebody. I mean, if you would really like me to come over, sure.
I'd like you to come over. You're my buddy. You can come over to my house.
Okay.
She asked like that as well. That wasn't Alex. That was legitimately time to just go, you're my buddy. You can come over to the house.
And when this happens, are you encouraging Ben to get out of the house for the night, or?
I would ask Flynn. I was like, Flynn, sometimes the pack leader is around, but he's usually in wolf form. Doesn't really care for being in human form too much. Should I tell him to just leave for the night? He doesn't mind. He goes and sleeps with his other pack in the woods sometimes.
I think canonically at the start of our actual main campaign, Flynn had not met Ben yet.
Then I would ask Ben to I'd just be like, hey Ben, would you mind just sort of I need the house for company tonight. Would you mind going in the woods and looking after the other lupines?
And he does stay in hippo form damn near all of the time. He's a giant wolf around your house at all hours. And he does that, that sigh that the animals we choose to live with make, where that they don't pay rent and they don't necessarily have to worry about where their food is coming from. And yet they have the podacity to sigh as if they have the weight of the world on their shoulders.
Thank you. This has been Side Story 2 for Night of the Worm. I've been Alex. Good night.
Yeah. So he does that, and as he's sighing, it's like the act of shifting downward into lupus, and he goes for the doggy door and takes off for the evening.
Cool.
By the way, if you heard that, my own giant wolf-like dog was just trying to get into the room. So,
you can let him
really
in.
funny.
Yeah, I'll just basically clean up. Mind you, Ben doesn't really leave a mess. He kind of just has his corner in the house. And plus, if Flynn smell anything that's werewolfy, it's like, well, yeah, I live here. So yeah,
But
just
also,
tidies the house up.
I think we've been put together on just enough assignments that I know that Ben is probably who's the one giving them to you. So I would probably know a little bit that this is kind of a little bit of a hangout spot for the Garou in particular. Wouldn't be surprised.
I would have definitely mentioned Sarah, and at least Sarah, who's the head of the pack leader for the Heart Wardens, who's a friend as well, and then Ben, obviously, who's my pack leader. So you'd know who these people were. It's not a crazy reach to say they'd be around. And I'll warm up a Capri Sun blood bag for Flynn for when he gets there.
And it's you tell him, yeah, come around this time. And as spoken, when we first showed up at Tamsin's house, he is 30 minutes late.
Yep.
But when he does get there, he drives himself finds a parking spot and like does the knock and just waits. Because he's not going in uninvited. That is a personal policy, not a bane.
And it's just polite, honestly, to just not barge into somebody's house, which Tamsin likes. So someone goes, "Oh, you're here," and she's in like a shirt that says like alpha male on it, and it's got like flowers and hearts, and then she's wearing like leggings and like her fluffy like wolf feet slippers that Jackson got her as a joke. He goes, "Yeah, come in. Welcome to my house."
I think Flynn is similar-ish to how you normally see him, but much more homebodied. He's got he's wearing a sweater, but it's a lightweight one, so it doesn't make him too warm, even though temperature doesn't make a difference to him. And it's wearing gray sweatpants. And maybe it looks like they're just socks, but they could be like those socks with like the hard bottoms.
Or like those grippy rubber dots, so you don't slide around.
A little
like
bit. Yeah, he's not he's not wearing proper shoes at all.
No.
Yoga socks make me happy. That's my whole input.
Love that. Hi.
So you're here.
You can come in, Flynn, if you want. It's okay. You don't have to stand in the doorway.
Okay, cool. I just don't like being rude, and I know a lot of... It's not like a bane or anything. Like, I can come in if I wanted to. It's just impolite, you know? And then we'll, like, walk in the door.
Yeah, I'll shut the door after it's like, you have no idea. Tamsin will say out loud, you have no idea how refreshing that is when you have wolves in and out of this house all the time, and they never knock, and they never wipe their feet. It's very frustrating.
That's
like,
just
what,
rude.
do you live in... What, you come into my house? What, do you live in a barn? Actually, Ben was raised in the woods.
Well,
that is a good point. Yeah, he was.
I was gonna say, it kind of... Anyway, so what are we doing? I don't do this ever.
Oh, I made you a tea. And she presents Flynn with like an individual person's teapot and a teacup that obviously has blood in it that's been warmed up for you.
I imagine you also have like an ember mug, those mugs that like stay hot, because you have another guest from time to time who needs such accommodations. Yeah.
Which, you see, this blows his mind. Flynn does basic preservation of blood supply so that he can be stocked. It's always cold. Never in his life had warm blood. So this is life. So it's you genuinely like set this down as he goes to sit down, and he's like, "That's wild, actually." And,
did I get the type?
Goes and pours himself a cup, but like he looks flabbergasted.
Oh shit! Did I get the type of blood wrong? Do you like a specific blood type? I kind of just had to go O negative.
Warm.
Blood is usually blood in body warm.
No, drink blood from body.
Like the medium roast, I think, of the blood resonance world. Yeah.
Blood in body warm.
No, I drink blood from body.
I know, but don't you ever just like, I know it's sacrilege, but don't you ever just like warm up some blood in a mug in the microwave or something and just like have that so it's warm?
No.
Pro tip. I mean, don't microwave
First of all,
tea.
It's a crime. Second of all, I wouldn't do that to my roommate because he's the one that uses the microwave most of the time.
That is an exception. What about, I heard about one of the princes using like one of those baby bottle warmers, and you can just like put blood in a container and then warm it up.
How am I going to explain that?
You live with a ghoul.
Who has other friends that come over while I'm in bed.
Just put, like people have a coffee machine in their room. Couldn't you just have like a little drink station in there? Like a mini fridge and stuff?
It doesn't fit my vibe, It's just weird. I'm sorry, this is just a novelty to me. I'm used to it being cold. That's what this is. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, you can just have this blood this way when you come to my house. It can just be a thing.
Fun. Love that for me.
You sound so sarcastic when you say that, Flynn. I'm not sure if you're being truthful or not.
I'm so sorry. This is a great time. You remember that conversation we tabled a couple of years ago about what I saw when we were looking at the pizza place?
I might have forgotten because I was really hungry, but I do vaguely. What, the one with when Sandra? We went found Sandra. Do you remember that? Yeah. Oh yeah, you gave that girl like major stink eye for no reason. What was that about?
And this is how we make it canon that Tamsin knows about Alexander. will talk about what he saw and give, not in too much detail, but the generic experience of Flynn's relationship with Alexander and everything that happened.
And it probably also passes to some degree or another that Tamsin has the relationship with Jackson that she has.
No.
Oh.
I will say not I wouldn't have told Flynn about that yet, but I would tell Flynn about what really happened with Hans, because like I know Flynn's not going to say anything to anybody at this point. Like Flynn doesn't care about like gossip and things like that. So
and Flynn already kind of knows.
I think she wants to explain what actually happened, and she's like, you were correct, but also, and then give the wider context of it was the first time she turned, she accidentally killed him. There was a cover-up situation to protect her and the other Garou in the area.
I love that insensitively, without meaning to, just because social cues are not Flynn's specialty, would like you'd be like, yeah, that was my first kill, but it was accidental, and Flynn's like, mine was entirely intentional.
And she'd look at Flynn after sipping tea, like absolutely, like she's not used to Flynn sharing, so she's just like sipping tea, taking it all, and he's just like, that is absolutely fascinating, and I'm proud.
For how absolutely traumatic it is from beginning to end of that story, it's talking about it so casually.
And what ending of that story does Tamsin receive? Is it the one Alex has already heard?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe a few fuzzier details, because it's probably a memory that Flynn has hazed over a little bit to protect his already unstable psyche.
Yeah.
But in what he remembers without opening a box he doesn't care to open, that's the ending Tamsin would get.
And for the sake of our listeners who undoubtedly have seen the rest of our episodes, if you're watching this wonderful side story with these characters tonight, a brief reminder is that Tamsin's first turn, which has been slightly alluded to this evening, resulted in the death of her paramour, Hans, and the assisted cover-up by the London Garou community, who had unfortunately fallen just short of what they would have hoped to be successful kin-seeking efforts to prevent Tamsin from having ever encountered such a situation as did happen. And in a similar fashion, Flynn, being considered the notion that in Camarilla society down in Los Angeles, would not necessarily have been graciously welcomed for the act of slaying his sire, and is now living once again in a Camarilla city wherein such details would not necessarily be embraced, although at least in Portland, the vast majority of kindred are persons escaping a similar past, and everybody knows you've probably done something like that, as long as you don't go around bragging about it. So I do assume Flynn gave Tamsin just enough details to imply that it was an exceptionally toxic situation, and I'm not going to tell everybody about it, but yeah, I stood up for myself and I ended that fucker. And both of you have your stories edited to a degree that allows for you to retain some privacy for your personal lives, while divulging more detail than I think you've shared with a lot of people outside of your immediate circles, in such a fashion that one circle comprises a couple of werewolves who don't always love taking on human form or are difficult to speak to anyways, and the other circle is a roommate and some work colleagues online. So this is kind of a nice luxury to have each other this evening. And another fun detail that I'm curious to see if either of you have thoughts is Sandra probably flickered back into existence. To get out the way you did, you weren't able to go back to the pizza parlor that night, and it's undoubtedly the case that something was tying her to that location, but there was no room for you to investigate that evening. Would there ever be a follow-up investigation as to what's going on with Sandra, or would you not wish to disturb her, knowing full well that the hunters, at the very least, took down the genuine disturbance that gave cause for you to be called to Old Town Pizzeria?
If Flynn didn't have any reason to suspect that what was causing her to flicker when we were there wasn't already taken care of, he would have kind of gone back in for lack of a better term, a wellness check. But also respects that spirits just want to be left alone.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be sent back to the Umbra or exercised in any way with a right. Tamsin goes to eat there anyway, so I think she would have just like checked in and just like made a note in like her sort of like map of Portland somewhere that Sandra is here. She's fine. She's not going to hurt anybody from what we've seen. She's just chilling out in the pizzeria.
Yeah, like if happenstance shows back up and seems to be doing just fine, wouldn't think twice about it.
Now, can I get a volunteer? Whichever of the two of you really feels like they want to roll a single die right now.
For what?
That's not... Just who wants to roll a die?
I'll do it.
Okay. And now, KJ, please say evens or odds.
Odds.
Okay. Alex, go ahead and roll one die.
I'm going to use my metal blood spatter d20, so...
Nice. Odds will receive a slightly more favorable situation.
I got
Evens
an 18.
Will, an 18. So,
yeah.
What I'll state then is that any information you might have received from the semi-allied, if not fully allied hunters would have revealed that they had to do what most hunters do, and they ultimately put down what was still in a monstrous state, the Fomori that was down in the underground, and probably had a few other scrapes with other creatures, because although numerous humans do reside in that space, life be hard, y'all. Hunters are not generally amongst them, nor would they necessarily be welcomed by other denizens of said space. And for better or worse, the ghost of Sandra, not Nina, is definitely still a presence that can be encountered and experienced, but at least in whether it's a single time or additional times that you check in, doesn't seem to be in a similar state of duress or distress that she would have been that night. And take with that what you will, if that was somehow the less favorable of the options. Are there any other specific hangouts, specific collaborations, or any other moments this evening that we'll touch on between that time, probably early spring of 2025, up until the events of Night of the Wyrm, October?
I think there would have been one instance, maybe only a month or so before the start of the main campaign, where Flynn, one, got permission from the roommate, and two, felt comfortable enough to invite Tamsin over because his apartment is his haven.
Tamsin gets the invite and is trying so hard to not freak out and be excited.
To be chill.
We're just going to be so chill. And it goes the way of like when she knocks on the door, like to your apartment, once you've like
it's
sent
like
the address. It's like 3 knocks and you just open the door and she's there, and like when you're trying to look chill but you look kind of manic, and she's like, "Hey."
Hi.
Did you bring anything for Ronan?
Of course I did. Whatever Ronan's like favorite snack is, I bought.
Yeah, I would have probably like with the message probably would have gone along the lines of, okay, I talked to Ronan, he said it's chill, you can come over, probably bring a snack. It makes him more comfortable.
Oh, Flynn, don't worry, I was going to bring like a whole tea situation and snacks anyway, so we're good.
And would let Tamsin in and just kind of gesture to Ronan and be like, this is the roommate, this is Ronan.
Hi, Ronan.
Hey. And like lingers to be polite with the conversation, but also having come from an abusive past of his own that Tamsin undoubtedly hasn't heard anything about, doesn't linger for too long and eventually goes to his room. But he's grateful that you brought some snacks, and Flynn, you know that he's undoubtedly in the other room using a Steam Deck and is open to the notion of spending time with people, but like needs a few interactions before fully hanging. Unless Jackbox is played. He is a video game person and will definitely come out for Jackbox.
Well, he's a streamer, so
Mm-hmm.
you would probably hear a little bit of him playing, because when there's people over, he doesn't like to close doors. He likes to keep them open, so he's more aware of his surroundings.
Yep.
But would just kind of be like, it's not that big a place. Well, from the looks of this, it's not that big of a place. It's bigger on the inside.
And it's a Warzone night, and there's probably some Doctor Who paraphernalia around to imply the it's bigger on the inside situation.
Like, I have... How many dots do I have? I have 3 dots in Haven. So while from the outside, it looks like a normal, like, 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, Flynn has either had contracted or been given, based on certain helpful tidbits, whatever, a basement section that it could 100% be used for normal everyday people things, but it's also like double laced. So if he needs to spend like an all-nighter and cannot be worried about a window showing the sun, he's in the basement working. There's clearly some kind of workspace for either journalism or other kind of investigative work that's down here. There's probably a conspiracy board on the wall somewhere.
And you would undoubtedly, I would imagine that between now and the last couple of sequences we ran through, you've been over to Tamsin's house at least one other time in such a fashion that Tamsin, you totally would have shown off the basement and the lab and the workshop. So some reciprocation undoubtedly occurs, and you show off your basement, Flynn. And I would like you to, as you're sort of showing some stuff off, and you're not necessarily going into detail with everything, although everybody has sort of like a look at my stuff moment when friends come over the first time, I would like you to make an intelligence and technology check for me, please.
Sure.
It's very much the Thor meme of behold my stuff for both of us. It's like, this is Flynn's stuff. This is Tamsin's fun stuff.
And like,
Yep.
It's really funny because there's a little bit of overlap between both because of what both of us do, but also he's very much more tactile. He likes having the physical copies of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And feel free, by the way, to add one more die, because you and Tamsin are looking over stuff together.
Okay, that is 4 successes, 1 crit, but it's not a double.
Okay. And that's 4 including the 1 crit value, or that's 5 successes total?
That's including the crit.
Okay, cool. 4, if we're using my, from the normal series, 3-5 ruling, would net the fact that you're sort of looking some stuff over, and you invite Tamsin, after probably closing a couple of windows, to come over and check something out that you've been working on. Quid pro quo. This undoubtedly happened back at Tamsin's place. And the two of you notice, I'm going to use a term from like Cyberpunk and other things, because I'm having an issue thinking of like a Trojan equivalent. You see like evidence of a daemon in your computer. As you're moving things aside and getting ready to show something off the Tamsin, you definitely notice some spyware, or at least evidence of it. And the rest of your time hanging out this evening, which is a big deal, it's the first time that Tamsin has come over to your place, is only marred ever so slightly by the notion that you probably both spend a good 5 to 10 minutes with Tamsin undoubtedly breaking out a device of her own, trying to get to the bottom of, okay, what's this bullshit? Like, obviously, people are sending out viruses and what have you all the time. This was probably that. But we live in a scene where this is interesting, and both of us have an affinity for checking some stuff out. And you try to chase it down. You try to find your way back to whatever it might be. But unfortunately, you just come to the conclusion that you have to run some anti-malware, defrag, and then go about the rest of your evening together, sort of like getting indoctrinated in this space. Once again, listening to Ronan play Call of Duty Warzone until eventually he finishes up with a match and potentially comes back out to socialize, begins ingratiating himself with your friend Tamsin. But we unfortunately close out the evening on the notion that this close to the events of Night of the Wyrm. In a more noticeable fashion than is usually the case, somebody was spying in on your computer, Flynn. That's auspicious.
There is just
I
one
think-
more scene I wanted to do, that we talked about, if that's okay. We cut to
Please.
episode 2 of Night of the Wyrm. We're like a third of the way through, and Tamsin's on the phone with Jackson. At the time, the group was just investigating, thinking about possibilities of where to go, and investigating the new threat presented to the cohort of people, the cohort of kindred and werewolves.
Okay. When you
And
told Jackson that night you were all going to head down to Salem and check out that one place near Clear Lake. Yep. So.
and we did, and there may have been some flirting on that call that not everyone heard, apart from one person.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see if Flynn would like to ever bring that up at some point before the next episode is out.
I think
I'll see you down there.
Okay, I'll see. God damn it, Batman. Okay.
I think there's a moment like when we had made the decision and people started figuring out where they were gonna go. Because we went. I'm trying to remember.
Me and you went to Sarah. Me and you and Nemo and McCreary went to Sarah's house.
It was
to
with
check that
Wilco.
No, it was
No.
Nemo.
She
Okay.
showed up as needed in the next session. Yeah, but
right.
you initially went over with.
Because McCreary drove us. That's right.
Yes,
Yep.
because nobody had a car. So we
Well,
needed
I
to-
did. I just hadn't driven it to your house.
Yeah, so we had a car ride over to
I think it
Sarah's
would have been before, because I had canonically said that Flynn was in the front passenger seat because we were playing heads up with McCreary later. Would have just like pushed the seat as far back as possible and like leaned it back and just like turns around to be like this towards Tamsin in the back and is like,
Flynn, it seems you wish to engage me in a conversation.
mm-hmm.
Yes?
Come on, we know each other well enough by now. What was that phone call?
Nemo says, "Yeah, we're all good friends. What's this
Nemo,
about?"
Nemo, get out of the car. I'll see you in a second.
Get out of the car.
Well, look, we're moving right now.
Oh, I would have waited until they like pulled up. I would just shove him out of the car.
Canonically, you guys get to Sarah's, because you got to Sarah's house and it was immediately clear something was wrong.
Yes.
And then you headed over to Cassandra's. It was immediately clear something was wrong.
I think that's when Flynn first brought it up, and it probably got
Mhm.
shut down because there were other people around, and got brought back up later when we were the only ones at Tamsin's place.
Yes.
When
Because
we were
Flynn...
looking over the blood vials and stuff.
Snap
Just
cut to the following night.
Snap cut to the following night. Tamsin is about to go to sleep for a much needed nap after shenanigans happened.
And Flynn just, like, as he's, like, reading through this file drive and, like, organizing the blood files, is just like, hey, Tamsin,
Hmm? Yeah?
what was that phone call?
What phone call? I'm tired.
You tabled this conversation yesterday. That was Jackson.
Yeah? My friend Jackson? Yeah? He's gonna help. What of it? Obviously, like, lying, because Tamsin has no
and, like,
poker face.
And like Flynn sets down whatever he was holding, like turns around and is like, friend,
Friend? Good friend.
good friend. Sure, because I believe that.
Oh no, he's an excellent friend.
Friend with benefits, maybe.
So far, I have not found a downside to that man. So, yes.
Good God. There was flirting on that phone call. I just wanted confirmation.
Hey, I, Flynn.
You
Now she's fully
flirted.
set up. She's like, right, if you're bringing this up, she like takes the jack. Okay, she's like, look, listen, Flynn.
You flirted.
Yes.
You flirted on a professional phone call where you were asking for help for work.
All I do is work. Where am I supposed to meet people? Well,
Do you not have a work-life balance? Tamsin, this is why you're burned out always.
Flynn,
You need personal days.
Before you accuse me of not having a work-life balance, I want you to look around at where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that you're going to stay awake when you're supposed to be asleep.
I'm on the job.
And I need to go to work tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, he's really hot though.
For you, maybe.
I mean, we all have our types, but yes, for me.
But he's a kindred. How does that work?
What do you mean, how does it work? We're friends. Not like that, but we're friends.
No, I mean, like, it's kind of like a faux pas. Like, it's taboo between, you know.
Which is why we talk with our inside voices, and we don't tell anybody else.
I mean, it's not like there's much danger. He's shooting blanks, he's dead.
Just because he's shooting blanks, it doesn't mean the gun ain't loaded.
Okay, I think I've asked more questions than I want to know.
You
back around.
All I'm saying is that he's not just blushing when he uses the blush of life, okay? I need to nap.
Good night.
Good night.
Gets back into work.
Turns back
And Flynn, you notice once again as Tamsin heads up the stairs, probably about 40 to 50 seconds before the door opens again, and Raziel and Cassandra come traipsing down the stairs, and they kind of look beat to shit. Like Raziel noticeably has like fabric wrapped around her torso. Cassandra unfortunately can't catch a break, as she didn't seem to take any hits in the previous fight, but now she's covered in like debris and what have you that doesn't match the scrape that happened in the phlebotomy lab down at the adjunct campus in Salem. But before they come down, before you hear Tamsin yelling down the stairs for them all to get settled, as she's very clearly still moving to head up and do some other things, you notice once again there's that same little spyware. And whether you have NordVPN or Norton 360 or some other World of Darkness equivalent, you had thought you had expertly removed the instance of that type of spyware from coming into your computer, but you catch just the glimpse of monitoring once again.
I think he completely stops using any, like, factory deletes anything that he had just been keeping notes on. Powers off fully. Like, that piece of device, and will, until he can get some new tech, will fully be doing everything pencil and paper.
And knowing full well that upon waking, unfortunately, in just like 14 to 16 hours, you won't have time to have gone by and gotten any new stuff yet, there's that burning question in your mind. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks, and that had the same digital signature as the thing you couldn't track down previously. What the hell is going on? And
that's going on sticky note.
Tamsin, you head upstairs, probably take a quick shower, go down for a nap, knowing full well that in roughly an hour and a half, you're going to be heading off to work again. And it's frowned upon, but it's not actively discouraged. But yeah, you now have pretty firm confirmation that, obviously the professional investigator is aware of your relationship with... Can you even call him your boyfriend? You guys never had that conversation, and yet, what if you can't now? Where is he?
I think the only person Tamsin doesn't mind knowing is Flynn. Because
who's he gonna tell?
And also Tamsin is very aware that Flynn and her investigative abilities, even though they may differ in how they do it, can find out pretty much anything about anybody at any point. And it's the fact that both of them had the decency to never do that after the article was written ever again, and they verbally told each other things and never looked into each other, that she's like, Flynn is solid.
There's trust there. Well.
To be fair, he probably did a little bit and never told you, but also it was of no consequence, because realistically, who was he gonna tell? Where was that information gonna go?
Northwest Weird always needs new material, but it sounds like that wasn't happening. Excellent.
No.
Well, we do still have some unanswered questions, and of course, by the time this airs, some of those will have undoubtedly been answered. But I do believe that is the note upon which we will end this evening.
I love that. Legitimately, I'm writing another sticky note for the conspiracy board.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I've got a little corner that's just of like Flynn stuff that may not have any consequence to any of the stuff that's actually going on, but it's on there.
Oh yeah, and canonically, if that board does come up in the finale, which everybody, once again, if you're watching this, you'll know before we do. Okay. It's exactly what would have happened considering the events of this evening. So I'm here for it. That conspiracy board is just as alive as we, the actors, are.
And I'm sure it won't be a trend that my boyfriend dies again, right? Because the storyteller wouldn't do that to me. My good friend Sam down there.
Nah, not in the slightest. How could I?
Sam wouldn't. Storyteller might.
Storyteller just might. Thank you for beating me to that punch. Yes. Roll. Hey, just kiss your dice. Buy them nice things between now and when we record, which cannot in IRL is 2 days from now. So just put them out to charge overnight, etc., and hope for the best. Until then, though, everybody, which again weirdly is going to be in the past with reference to when we're actually airing this.
The past and the future at the same time.
I'm doing a Flynn premonition, but we're doing it like I've broken because it's not how the rules work. Like looking at the past as well. That's a whole thing. Didn't even have to do a rouse check. Hooray! But everybody, my name is Sam. You can find me in most places online at Dungeon Samster, and I have been your storyteller this evening. You can see me. Actually, you can't see me at this point because we wrapped up with the most recent season of Dress to Quest, our 5th edition. Tabletop Misfits telling of Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden just last week or the week before, because this might air a little bit late. But you can see us coming back with an additional season of Night of the Wyrm, as well as the next season of Dress to Quest in 2026 at times to be firmly announced, in addition to more side stories like this one. Also, keep an eye out for a program that Alex is going to talk about in just a moment, because Alex, please let us know who you were and where we can find you.
You'll never know my secrets, except I'm going to tell you them all because I'm not Tamsin. I'm Alex. I'm Blonded94 on the internet places. I work with Tabletop Misfits here on Night of the Wyrm. And for Tabletop Misfits, I am producing 2 shows, one of which will be coming out in January, which is a series of a game called The Time We Have, A Conversation Between Two Brothers, which is a 2-player apocalyptic storytelling game about family and love and all that good, yummy emotions. And then another cheerful game that I'll be producing next year is Candela Obscura, because I can't get enough of being sad. I will be producing a mystery starring Samster down here, and it'll be a fun Sabuki mystery time. And I'll be around. I'm editing some things. I'm on the channel. And then there's this person above me, canonically on the screen over here. It's KJ.
Oh, that's right. I would be above you. Sounded so condescending. It's not what I meant. Hi, I'm KJ. You can find me in various forms of KJ cosplay with different punctuation because I was not able to brand the same thing everywhere. You can find me mostly on my personal stuff. I stream on Twitch every once in a while, hoping to get more consistently back into it in the new year. You can also find me playing a homebrew critter D&D game on the channel of Like in a Moss, Campaign of Brass and Briar, where I play a little albino ferret acrobatic person who is going through it. We took a break for recording anything campaign-wise during December, so you can catch all of the next set of actual session stuff in January, which is really nice because it means I'm not having to try to double film things for this and that. You can also hopefully find me sometime soon on the 2B Dice channel for the game The Dimensional Dial of Dr. Diago, where I play an innocent and complex set of 2 characters in one body. I love them so much. And that's kind of it. I'm a little bit of everywhere, but also nowhere.
You're a little bit of everywhere that we're excited about. I can't wait to see so much of that, including the continuation of the Diary of Dr. Travago, because that's the first place I saw you online, and that was a really fun session for which I had no previous context.
Do you want
I jumped in.
Do you want to try and say that show name again, Sam?
Because that's
No.
not what it is. The dimensional dial of Dr.
The
Diago.
dimensional dial of Dr. Diago.
To be entirely fair, it's a bit with Tarzan that he refuses to say the name correctly, and it derails everything during our introductions.
No, he told me that ahead of time, and I was doing my version of that. I'm looking at the message right now, but you can't see it because I'm not sharing my screen.
Yep.
It goes to a different school. On that note, everybody, I'm one of the worst executive producers of Tabletop Misfits because I've barely memorized any of our sponsors, but please know that that information is found below. We love working with these entities. Some of them are affiliate codes. Some of them are discounts that help you to gain wonderful things that help you with your tabletop lifestyle. And they're wonderful companies that we enjoy working with. I'm so sorry I don't have it memorized. I get so stressed getting ready for the session, I forget to look at or make notes for such matters. But we have been here for a Tabletop Misfits production of A Night of the Wyrm / World of Darkness story. We're so glad you joined us on this evening, and we'll see you again for the next one. Take care.